You know this story. The golden barge on the Nile, the asp at the breast, the love affairs with the two most powerful men in Rome, the kohl-rimmed eyes, Elizabeth Taylor in a golden headdress, the beautiful queen who loved too much and lost everything, Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, the woman whose name has meant seduction and tragedy and feminine excess for 2000 years. You know it like this. Cleopatra was the queen of Egypt who seduced Julius Caesar to secure her throne, then seduced Mark Antony after Caesar's assassination to maintain her power, when Antony's forces were defeated by Octavian. She chose suicide by snakebite rather than face humiliation in Rome. She was beautiful, manipulative, and ultimately tragic, a woman who used her body as her primary political tool and lost. That is the story 2000 years of mostly male historians have told. Now let me tell you what the actual historical record, the archaeology, the primary sources, the scholarship of the past 50 years reveals about who Cleopatra actually was. She was not primarily beautiful. She was primarily brilliant. And the difference between those two sentences is the difference between a love story and a political tragedy of the highest order. The version of Cleopatra that most people carry comes overwhelmingly from Roman sources, primarily Plutarch, Cassius Dio, and the propaganda machine of Octavian, who became Augustus Caesar after defeating her. These are not neutral sources. Octavian needed Cleopatra to be a monster. He had fought a civil war against Mark Antony, a Roman citizen, a Roman general, a Roman hero of many campaigns. You cannot present a civil war as noble if your enemy is a fellow Roman patriot. You need him to be corrupted, enslaved, unmanned by an Eastern queen who used sexuality as a weapon. The Roman propaganda machine, one of the most sophisticated in the ancient world, was turned on Cleopatra with complete deliberateness. She was made a whore, a witch, a snake, an Eastern temptress who had stolen Rome's greatest general with her body and her foreign magic. This framing served Octavian perfectly. The war was not a civil war. It was a defense of Roman virtue against Eastern corruption. The enemy was not Antony, it was her. And the sources that survive from that period, the sources Western history has used for 2000 years, were almost entirely produced by the winning side. We have been reading Octavian's press releases and calling them history. The ancient biographer Plutarch, writing over a century after Cleopatra's death, recorded something that has been quoted and then immediately forgotten by almost everyone who reads it. He wrote that Cleopatra's beauty, as actually seen, was not in itself altogether incomparable, but the contact of her presence was irresistible. The force of her character combined with the persuasiveness of her speech and the character that attended all she said and did was something bewitching. Her presence, he said, had an irresistible charm. Her voice, and he is specific about this, was like an instrument of many strings. And then he records, she could pass from one language to another with ease. Most of the kings before her had not even troubled to acquire the Egyptian language. She spoke it fluently along with the languages of the Ethiopians, the Troglodytes, the Hebrews, the Arabians, the Syrians, the Medes, the Parthians, and several others. She spoke 9 languages. The Ptolemaic dynasty had ruled Egypt for 250 years before Cleopatra. In all that time, through all those rulers, not one of them had learned to speak Egyptian. They ruled the country whose language they could not speak. Cleopatra learned it, and 8 others. This is not the detail that defines a seductress. This is the detail that defines a scholar, a diplomat, and a ruler who understood that power comes from being able to speak directly to the people you lead. Let us talk about what Cleopatra actually did, not who she loved, what she built, commanded, and managed. She came to power at 17, co-ruler with her younger brother Ptolemy 13, who was 10 years old and entirely controlled by his advisors. Within 3 years, those advisors had driven her out of Alexandria and she was raising an army on Egypt's border. She was 21 years old, in exile, with no army of her own. She got herself smuggled into the palace inside a merchant's sack, or according to some sources, a rolled carpet to meet Julius Caesar, who had arrived in Alexandria with his forces. Whatever the exact mechanism, she got herself into a room with the most powerful military commander in the Western world and convinced him, in one meeting, to support her claim to the throne. Not with her body, with her argument. Caesar was not a man who made political decisions based on attraction. He was one of history's greatest military and political strategists. He had defeated the entire Gallic nation. He had crossed the Rubicon and taken Rome. He was not susceptible to simple seduction. He was susceptible to a 21-year-old queen who could make the case in his own language, with complete command of the political situation for why supporting her was strategically correct for Rome. Caesar supported her because she was right. The Library of Alexandria, the greatest repository of human knowledge in the ancient world, was in Cleopatra's city. The Museum, the scholarly institution attached to it, was under her patronage. Cleopatra was educated there. She studied mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, medicine. She wrote treatises, fragments of texts attributed to her on medicine, cosmetics, and weights and measures survive in references in later authors. She was not a student who dabbled. She was a genuine scholar of her era. When Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria and spent months in which he was technically on campaign and should have been focused entirely on military objectives, what was he doing? The historical record shows he was visiting the library, debating with scholars, engaging with the intellectual life of Alexandria. Cleopatra was his guide to all of it. The relationship between Caesar and Cleopatra was not primarily a love affair. It was an intellectual and political alliance between two of the most capable people of their era, one of whom happened to find the other compelling in every possible way. The same was true of Mark Antony. Antony was not seduced by Cleopatra's appearance. He was conquered by her performance of power. When she arrived to meet him at Tarsus on a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, surrounded by her court, she was making a political statement of extraordinary precision. She was saying, "I am a goddess queen of the wealthiest nation in the Mediterranean. Meeting with you is a favor I am granting, not a request I am making." It was stagecraft. It was politics. It was the most sophisticated diplomatic entrance in the ancient world. Antony understood immediately. He had never met anyone like her. Neither had anyone else. Here is what the historical record shows Cleopatra managed for 21 years. Egypt under Cleopatra was the wealthiest kingdom in the Mediterranean. Its grain fed Rome. Its treasury funded wars. Its trade networks extended from Arabia to India to the Western Mediterranean. She managed all of it. She reformed the currency. She adjusted tax systems. She managed the Nile's flood cycle and the agricultural calendar that depended on it, the foundation of Egypt's entire economy. She navigated the complex religious politics of a country where the queen was also a goddess, where priests had enormous political power, and where the population was ethnically and religiously diverse in ways that required constant diplomatic management. She did all of this while simultaneously managing alliances with Rome, the most aggressive military power of the era, while Rome was in the middle of a century of civil wars that made its policies unpredictable and its leaders constantly changing. She kept Egypt independent for 21 years. The kingdom her ancestors had ruled for 250 years. The kingdom every other ruler in the region had failed to protect against Roman expansion. She was the last, and she kept it going for 2 decades through two of the most turbulent periods in Roman history, the assassination of Caesar and the subsequent civil wars, by being smarter than everyone around her. Not more beautiful, smarter. When Octavian's forces finally defeated Antony and entered Alexandria, Cleopatra did something that her enemies and her admirers have argued about for 2,000 years. She negotiated. She sent messengers to Octavian. She attempted to secure terms. She tried to preserve Egypt, or failing that, to preserve the succession of her children. She was not passive. She was not immediately suicidal. She was doing what she had always done, working every available angle to protect her position and her kingdom. When she understood that Octavian intended to take her to Rome to display her in chains in his triumph, the public parade of conquered enemies through the streets of Rome, she made her final calculation. She had spent her entire life refusing to be anyone's trophy. She had been the prize Ptolemy's advisors wanted to remove. She had been the pawn Caesar's enemies wanted to neutralize. She had been the weapon Octavian wanted to use against Antony's memory. She refused. The method of her death, whether it was an asp, a poison pin, or another mechanism, is genuinely uncertain. The sources disagree. What is not uncertain is the choice. She chose her own ending over someone else's narrative of her defeat. Octavian was furious. He had planned the triumph. He had wanted her alive and humiliated. Her death on her own terms, in her own time, was her final act of sovereignty. Not a love story. A refusal. The story of Cleopatra has been told for 2000 years primarily by the people who defeated her, Roman writers, Renaissance painters who had never seen her face, Hollywood directors who needed a love story, all of them reaching for the same explanation. She was beautiful, she was dangerous, she used her body, she lost. The actual historical record, the coins with her portrait, the decrees in her name, the trade agreements she negotiated, the languages she spoke, the scholars she patronized, the kingdom she managed for 21 years tells a completely different story. A story of a woman who was the most capable ruler of her era in one of the most difficult positions imaginable, ruling a wealthy kingdom that every major power wanted to absorb, in a period of constant political upheaval, against rulers who had military force she could not match. She lasted longer than anyone had any right to expect. And when she finally lost, she lost on her own terms. There is a reason this version of Cleopatra resonates so deeply right now. We live in a world that still reaches for the same explanation the Romans reached for, that capable women in power must be explaining their power through something other than capability, that the intellect must be secondary to the body, that the political must be secondary to the personal, that the achievement must be reducible to the romance. Cleopatra spoke 9 languages. We remember her as a love story. She managed the most complex diplomatic situation in the ancient Mediterranean for 2 decades. We remember the Golden Barge. She chose her own death over public humiliation. We called it heartbreak. The most powerful woman in the ancient world was reduced to a love story by the people who could not defeat her any other way. Script by Grey Wall Stories. Every wall holds a story. Some walls were built to make sure a woman's story was told by her enemies.